Ooh, that's a tough one. I've heard some melodies about Starman with Starman. So I would not be disappointed if I heard that one.
Welcome to Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. This is Tony Haggerty, and that's the Starman. He's making his debut tonight, Tony. What do you make of the lineup?
Well, I think a lot of Celtic supporters, a couple of surprises with Welsh dropped and Edward still in the starting 11. But to me, that's a horses for courses team. Ange's going to win. Whether they play rip roaring, free scoring, never boring, we'll see. We'll see by 10 o'clock. But do you know what? Start of the new season, always buzzing, always exciting. See if you don't get it in there, your heart pumping for the start of every new domestic season. Then you're not a football fan. You don't enjoy it, you know. And as I say, every season, last season's gone, the Champions League's gone. We focus on the here and now, and we chase the glory and the dream again.
We do. See, the thing, Tony, it's like you say the other night there, as disappointed as anybody, there was moments in that evening where I felt we were going to get through. And I was actually thinking to myself, what an achievement if he was able to come in. By that time, I think he was, 48 days in the job. And he's managed to cobble together a defence that was good enough to get us through. Actually, when it came down to the second leg anyway, Tony, the defence wasn't the issue, but we were too short. We were short and we bounced out the game. But like you say, I wake up today and all day this game is on your mind, isn't it? All day.
Renewed vigour. You know, you look at that team, and myself and Kevin Graham were joking in the WhatsApp chat. Well, you look at that team and you think, well, a goalkeeper, a right back, a centre half, a centre midfielder, and a centre forward have been a right back in team. I think 5 players, he said jokingly. But I look at that team, and that's probably the strongest he could have played, barring Kyogo coming in it, you know. But spoke to you off camera just before we come on, and I said, Chief French Eddie gives us the French Eddie of the Midtjylland game the other night. I would hook him after 20 minutes, half an hour, and say to Kyogo, give me what you got.
On you go. I made a suggestion.
Sorry, on you go.
Last week I made a suggestion because obviously we had seen another poor performance by Edouard, and the issue was you're looking at the other options. Well, Griffiths isn't an option at the moment. Ajeti has not made the impact that you would require for a starter in a must-win European game. So then you start looking at some of the other guys who can play up front, and I know Abada can play through the centre, so that was an option on Wednesday night. He does start tonight, but I'm guessing he's going to be playing out left, Tony, which again isn't his favoured, but he can play out there. The adaptability of that kid, I think, already has been evident since he's come in.
That'll be an asset moving forward. Well, you look at 2 wide men tonight, isn't it? Forrest and Abada, possibly feeding Edouard. So this is looking like Ange Ball team. You know, the way he wants to play with the 2 wide men feeding a main striker. Now Eddie's got to turn up.
He does.
If these 2 guys are going to have, he wants these 2 guys to play with the width. Then if they're getting any kind of service into Eddie, he's got to turn up. Because honestly, I wouldn't put up with that again from Edouard. But the problem you've got is he's playing him because you still want somebody to buy him. But at this moment in time, nobody's forking out 21 million quid for Edouard.
Well, I seen on Twitter a much respected Brighton and Hove Albion journal basically coming out and saying there's been no contact, there's been no inquiry, never mind a bid, never mind haggling on a price, there's been no inquiry. And like you say, Tony, there will be part of that on the mind of not only Ange but the football club. If you want to get interest, you need to get a player performing. Now, there's the quandary. There is a quandary with Edouard, who, again, I don't like to say it too often, but on Wednesday night, he seemed to look as though he had checked out. There was a moment near the end, and by the way, there'll be people in the comments saying, Paul, I've been saying that for a year, I've been saying that for 9 months, that's fair dues. Now, I don't mind so much if it's because he's on his way out and he's just about agreed a deal, but it looks like that's not even in the offing at the moment, Tony. So there is a slight dilemma. It's for the best of the player and for the best of Celtic Football Club. if he turns up, puts in 100% and gets his move. And at that point, I'm guessing that, although we do have other options, we've not mentioned Kyogo, who I'm hoping makes his debut tonight as well. Abada can play through the centre. We obviously need to go out and strengthen up front as well.
Of course, yeah. And, I look at that team and I think it's probably the strongest team we could have played, basically. You can argue the toss over Welsh and Beaton, right? Beaton lucky to come back in. What happened in his last game. So, but he's clearly had to tell him and say, look, I want you to perform a role here tonight. But I don't see a lot of Celtic supporters are worried about this. They're worried in terms of the fact that we don't have a lot of personnel, but let's bear in mind, we're playing a team that came up from the Championship. You know what I mean? If Celtic turn up, they should. I'm looking at that lineup. They should have better players than Hearts. So they should be able to give them an Inverness clack and a cudding. For those of you who don't understand that, I mean a scudding, right? You know what I mean? So what's the big panic? I think the big panic is that we know we need players, but that squad there, or that starting 11, should be good enough to beat Hearts tonight, right?
Yeah, yep.
It should be. And I know what you're saying about French Eddie and people saying he's checked out for a year. He was a top goal scorer in the country last year. So he turned up at times last year. Not enough times when we wanted him, but he was still the top goal scorer. So, yeah, you can... I hate the phrase down in tools. He maybe did spit the dummy at the fact that he never got a move as early as he could. But I've never seen a performance like I did the other night against Midtjylland. I'd never accuse a player of down in tools. But you said a phrase there, he had checked out because he offered absolutely nothing. When you come to it and you look at it and you think, are we guilty of thinking that Eddie's far better than he actually is? Or is, because there are times when we thought he was a real deal.
Yeah.
But in the past year, we've just slowly but surely fallen out of love with him. And that's hard. And it's hard for a player then to turn that back on. And, everything that could have gone wrong last season did go wrong. And as I said at the start of the programme, it's gone. You have to just move on. And Ange, we trust in all that. So this is his chance, first chance. And a lot of people went ballistic yesterday when was talking about Ange might need to adjust to us. And I never said abandon his football philosophy. I said tweak it. Tweak it a bit. You want a keeper that saves the ball. Not a sweeper keeper that's going to give you heart and mouth moments every time the ball comes near you. Just do the basics first. He doesn't have the personnel to do what he wants to do or play the system and style that he wants at this moment in time. So I'm not saying abandon it, but you have to sort of tweak it a wee bit. And, because I want to see Ange Ball, this rip-roaring, free-scoring, never boring as your man from Australia promised us. Don't worry about the back. You know what I mean? Going forward, that kind of thing, right? But see if that's the case, you're going to strap yourself in for a roller coaster for a lot of 3-2s and 4-3s maybe. As long as we can outscore opponents, I'm happy with that. But it's in the days when you're not going to outscore opponents, you've got problems. So something, and I think that's why he brought in Beaton, the partner Starfield. I think he really wants to try and keep it as tight as a drum.
Well, I mean, I was very impressed with the first impressions of Carl Starfelt. Obviously, we opened the show with him talking about the David Bowie tune that I'm pretty sure in time we will be chanting, we will hear. Before I get back to any of the other comments, there was an interesting question in actual fact around his defensive partner. So I'll play that. We'll see what he said.
I'm afraid I'm not really the right person to, because I of course I've watched a couple of games, but I can't say too much about single person's performances so far. But he seems to me like a solid defender, aggressive. So I think whoever will be next to me, it will be a very good football player, because this is Celtic and their people are here for a reason, So I think there will be no problems, and we will adapt to each other, whoever is playing.
He was talking about Stephen Welsh. That was the lead question, Tony. And I must admit, I had almost taken it for granted that he would be partnering Stephen Welsh until such times as Julian comes back fit or we strengthen the squad further. There was an interesting discussion just earlier today with a pal of mine, Kenny Wilson, who DM'd me on Twitter to say he had a feeling that Beaton was going to come in tonight. And I could see his argument, but he wasn't talking about centre-half. He was talking about wee Sorrow dropping out. Now, my take on that was that I don't think Sorrow was at his best. But as you pointed out before we came live, there was quite a few of the players off their best the other night. My concern with Sorrow was he started to look leggy. I think Turnbull started to look leggy as well during the game. But it was the needless fouls that he continually gives away. Now, I think he probably got away with more than normal in Europe. But back to domestic duties, he's not going to get away with 3, 4, 5 fouls and a half, is he?
No, he has to learn. And see, if you don't learn, you won't play. Because the manager will notice that. I think he's given him the benefit of the doubt on this one, due to personnel. Because there's not much else there that he can do. But Sorrow has to learn to. I mean, he's a bill in a china shop at times. He's just careering into people, and and the top nut procedure alone, he will get done, and he will spend a lot of time sitting in the stand through suspension or, picking up needless red cards or double yellows, because he's clattered into. I mean, he clattered into a couple of guys the other night, and I thought he was very, very fortunate. I mean, I think the referee let him go with about 5 or 6 before he produced the yellow card, and that was my first thought. I thought, first one, you'll get a warning. Second one, you're on a booking. Third one, you're off.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And you draw attention to yourself every time you do something like that. And, people always say things like, he made the referee make a decision. Well, see, if you make the referee make a decision, don't be surprised if you come off on the wrong end of it. So it's just needless. You can't win every ball. You can jockey players, but you can't beat you guys every time to win the football, which is what he seems to specialise in. And then have the innocent face as if, what did I do wrong? You clattered someone. You know what I mean? You didn't play within the laws of the game. That's why you're getting dug up. And I was a bit worried as well. You mentioned that they were leggy. I was a bit worried about that too. They just, the minute that Midtjylland equalised, the energy was just, and the life was sapped out the team. Forrest gave them a spark, and then until he missed that chance. But all of a sudden, everything just seemed to go. It's just the life drained out of Celtic, which was a bit worrying, because after that, I don't think we had a shot at goal, did we?
That was a disappointment. Because I totally agree with you. Forrest brought a different dynamic to the side. 2 chances, we're basically, with hindsight, it's great to say he scores one of them, and we're talking about a completely different scenario. But it was the disappointment was after that event, Tony, was the lack. I mean, I've said during the week there that in the second half of extra time, I did not have the belief we were going to get a goal. I just did not believe we were going to do it. And that, again, isn't an indictment on the many of the players. And again, not on Ange, because he has cobbled together that team. And I think that was probably one of the biggest reasons why he's thought to himself tonight, this is the first opportunity I'm going to be able to put a central defensive partnership together that has some experience. Because, I mean, Welsh, someone might correct me here, but I think he's played 23 or 24 senior games of football for Celtic, and Beaton, we know, and Regan Stevenson comes on to share his thoughts on Beaton, like the team, best he can do, but I don't trust Beaton. I think a lot of Celtic fans are thinking exactly the same, but it's like what you said when you opened the podcast this evening, the show this evening, Tony. He's basically going for experience because it's a safe bet for him, and he's never had that. He's never had that.
It's a horses for courses team. He's decided, you know what, I'm not going here to lose or draw. He's going to win. So he's sorted the back of the pack out with 2 rigid centre-backs, right? Not taking any chance. I know people say Beaton's the gamble there. We'll soon find out, But that's the most experienced team he could have played with the players that he has at his disposal. Correct me if I'm wrong. You know.
Well, it certainly is. Now the other two players we need to discuss, Ralston and Taylor. Now we've heard rumours about various fullbacks coming to the club. Ralston, it's almost as if you stand up from, you know nothing about football. But when you watch his performance the other night, Tony, I thought that he done particularly well under the circumstances. He's not the answer, absolutely not. But, you know, domestically, Tony, do you think we can rely on the likes of Ralston and Taylor, particularly Taylor, who, you know, he's played a lot of games in Scottish football. I think when we're playing the Champions League, it's a step too far for him, got to say. Do you think they're safe enough in a game like tonight?
Right, you know, 10:15. You know my thoughts on Ralston. I've been not heavily critical of him. So I think, like Mikey Johnson, I don't think either of the two of them will cut it at Celtic, and their future probably lies elsewhere. But I'll give him credit the other night. I thought he was Celtic's best player the other night. You know, he put in a shift and he did what was required of him, right? And I said yesterday, a prerequisite is putting in a shift, but he also did what was required of him, and he got forward to good effect and put in some great crosses into the box. But French Eddie was just nowhere near them because French Eddie was, you know, wasn't even anticipating them, or, you know. So that's what disappointed me, because it looked as if Ralston was throwing in aimless balls. He wasn't. He was trying to pick out his centre forward and put into areas where his centre forward should have been, or advancing midfielders. So from middle to front, we said Celtic were let down. It was those players that let us down. Not Anthony Ralston. Anthony Ralston had arguably one of his best games in a Celtic jersey, and I'll admit that I'm not that blind and prejudiced that I can't give credit where it's due to a footballer that got played well on the night, and he was Celtic's best player because he defended resolutely and he got forward to good effect. That's all you can ask of a fullback, and whether he's got that performance in his locker domestically moving forward for any consistent period of time, I'm not so sure, because he's had umpteen opportunities to do that and play like that in a Celtic jersey, and he hasn't grasped them. So I'm like you. I still think that the right back position needs strengthened big time, and he's not the answer moving forward. Taylor, I think another one who the jury out in Taylor, still convinced. At times he looks okay, and then other times you think, nah, we need better. So another one, my personal jury's out on him as well. And again, time will tell moving forward, but you would feel a lot more comfortable if you strengthened in both of those areas. Definitely.
The 2 points you make there, the first one, there was an occasion where Ralston's crossed the ball in and Edouard actually jumped after the ball had gone. It was over his head, it had actually cleared the defender, then he jumped. You know, as he's watching the ball go out on the other side of the goal, and Taylor, I thought he was caught napping. He was dreadful defending for the first goal. He's 5 or 6 yards away from his man. But see, when I look at Ralston, as much as I've kind of stood up and defended him as much as possible, because, you know, I think that he's basically a limited player at this level. You've just got to look at the fact that he's been at Celtic, he's been in the first team. He made his debut 5 years ago. In that time, it was Ronnie Dyler that gave him his debut against St Johnstone. In that time, he's played under 5 managers, including John Kennedy. And during that period, we have gone from Lustig, and then you can start naming the right backs we brought in: Toljan, Frimpong, Maurice Bauer, Elhamed, John Joe Kenny. So there's a procession of right backs coming in, and that's under 5 different managers, or 4 if you don't want to count Kennedy. I think that says it all. None of them have been so confident that Tony's our man at right back.
Yeah, correct. And also, how can a team bring in 6 right backs, and with the exception of Frimpong, who you sold for a few million quid, how can nobody be any good?
I know.
You know, how
it's ridiculous. Who's our right back scout? Tony, who's our right back scout? Because we need to look at that.
I don't know. But do you know what? Do you know who I would offer it to? Daniel Fergus McGrain. There you go.
Yeah.
And I'd say to Danny, go and find us another you. You know what I mean? Because Danny would know what he was looking for, wouldn't he?
And he'd be pretty blunt about it as well, if you've ever spoken to him, Tony, as I'm sure you have.
Yeah. But Danny could spot a player.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why aren't Celtic utilising these guys like that? And say, do you know what, son? See if you do nothing else with this club moving forward, find us a right back.
Find us a right back. Yep.
Your mould. I'm not saying you can clone Danny McGrain, but you know what I mean? Danny McGrain would know exactly what he was looking for. I don't understand why they don't say to these, because these guys are in and around the club. Danny would find you one, surely. You know?
Well, he's the finest right back we've ever had, Tony, you know. The other thing I'm going to mention here, Dane Murray drops out. Shaw and Uragide, who have come in from Sheffield Wednesday, we've seen a bit of them in pre-season. They've dropped out as well. Do you feel a little bit maybe disappointed for Murray in this instance?
A bit, but I trust the manager implicitly, right? I really do. And I think the manager's hand was forced with Dane Murray and Stephen Welsh the other night because of Beaton's stupidity in the first leg. So he knew, again, he put them out there and he hoped that it would be like the game at Parkhead where the two guys actually did okay, you know. But we spoke off camera, and the one thing that worried me was the rashness of Welsh. 2 incidents. The crease that led to the goal in the first leg, and then the early booking in the second leg, which affected everything he did thereafter. Because he's thinking, if I miss time this, I'm off. You know, rash moments where both were needless challenges. Mm-hmm. And I think Ange's thinking, do you know what? I can't have that. And he'll have explained to him why he's not playing. You know, Dane Murray, you know, just, you know, a couple of games of that magnitude and just introduce him to it gradually. Mm-hmm. But I still would have worried if he'd have put Dane Murray beside Starfelt. And I think Hearts would have pinpointed that, you know, and I think it's like everything else. Hearts see that team sheet and think, all right, the youngsters aren't playing, you know, so maybe a change of plan for them, that kind of thing. So it's a statement team by Ange tonight, you know. In his opinion, there is no weak links there. Whereas Hearts might have said Dane Murray or a Stephen Welsh and thought, we'll target that. That's a weak link, right? So you look at that and say, that's quite an experienced team. If you're the Hearts manager and the Hearts players, so you're saying, all right, they're meaning business. They're coming here to mean business. So that's that, you know. And you can feel sorry for Welsh and Murray, but Andy's a realist as well. He needs to get a result. You know? Talking
about being a realist, Tony, we seen him, you know, coming in and showing a bit of class when he was speaking to the fan media. Very civil, very balanced. Since then, we've seen quite a few interviews that he's done with the mainstream media. Now, you have interviewed many managers in your time. What do you think of his style, and what do you think at the moment, Tony, a lot of your contemporaries are feeling going into a press conference with Ange Postecoglou?
He's aggressive and he takes no prisoners. And my mindset would be, if I was going in, is don't ask a silly question. Or don't put words in his mouth, or don't make your own judgments, you know, by preempting questions, you know. And I'm not saying keep them easy, hit shots into the body, you know, but, you know, that I did feel a bit sorry for Liam McLeod the other night when he said the word catastrophic and catastrophe, but Ange's defending his team, he's defending himself, and he's defending his players, and he's defending his club. So, you know, you the minute you say something like that, then if this is a guy who takes no prisoners and tells it like it is, then be prepared to be told it like it is, you know, in Angie's mind, you know. So I wouldn't be guarded, but I would be kind of like, okay, you read the room and you read the mood music, don't you? When you sit in front of a guy like Ange and you think, okay, this might ruffle him or bristle him, but here we go, you know. But you can't shy away from asking difficult questions. And Liam McLeod was perfectly entitled to say it. Is it a catastrophic defeat for Celtic? You know what I mean? It's no ideal, is it? Let's be honest. But I don't think he was prepared for the answer that he got.
No. Oh, to be fair, he asked that again. He stuck to the word catastrophe. Yeah.
He said catastrophic, and then he compounded it by saying catastrophe. So, you know, if you're going to do that, then he's quite a mild mannered, placid kind of guy, So I don't think he was doing it for mischief making, but I can't speak for him, because I wasn't sitting there when he was asking the questions. But if he wanted some kind of reaction, he certainly got one, but maybe not the way he wanted it. And again, he's got for him for being prickly with the media, hasn't he? And back home,
yeah,
so they know this. So if you're going to push his buttons, then fine, but be prepared to incur the wrath.
If you're going to rattle the cage,
if you incur the wrath and push his buttons, then you might not like it. That it's not exactly the hairdryer treatment, but you might well go full Sir Alex Ferguson one day on some unsuspecting member of the media. Probably me when I sit in front of him.
Have you ever had that, Tony? Because I remember being prepared to speak to Kenny Dalglish for the first time, and I spoke to a few people who had spoken to him, and they told me he could be abrasive, don't ask daft questions, etc., etc. I found him great, to be honest with you. I was really chuffed with that. But I mean, have you ever been in one of the toe curling situations?
I think I've had the Walter Smith stare before, or asking something ridiculously stupid, but in my mind it made sense, And I remember asking Martin O'Neill a question about points in Champions League. Remember they got 9 points in the first time they went into the Champions League group stages, and they failed to take a point at home. Away from home. Well, I think they were getting in again, and I said to him, would a perfect 10 points take you through this time? And he didn't even look at me. There was just a set of eyebrows and glasses, and he just was contempt, that way. And he just went, I'm just going to bat that question straight back at you and see if you catch it in the slips. That was his answer to me. And I kind of thought, I went, how's that? And he just looked at me as if, yeah, wee tube. I said nothing else for the rest of the pressure, because I thought, if you're going to be smart with someone, you have to be smart.
Wow.
And he was 100 times smarter than me, and it was that, the peeling of the glasses and just the eyebrows. He didn't even look at me, just thought, who's this idiot, and he lives and learns. I think that was the first time first or second time I'd sat in front of him and asked him, and I thought it was a perfectly legitimate question. But I think there was a preamble to it, was you never took a point on your travels, and the first time you got to the group stages, and this time if you win your 3 home games and you take a point, you get a perfect 10, that will take you through, won't it? Type thing. And he was just who's this idiot? But you can't afford to get awestruck. You've got to ask a question, and as I say, I thought that was fine, because Celtic were one of the few teams to go out of the Champions League group stages with 9 points.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the highest tallies ever, and they crashed out, sadly. So I thought it was a legitimate question. Obviously, Mr. O'Neill didn't. That's fine, And you live and learn. You think, okay, next time I'll bring my A game. You know what I mean?
It's a learning process. It's character building. Now, we've had a great audience tonight, and you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, and also on Twitter. So thanks for getting involved. Loads of good comments, coming in. What happens if Ralston gets injured? Well, I'll tell you what, there's no one on the bench can play right back either. The only other option we have is Urhoghide, but we mentioned earlier on that he is not even on the bench. So yes, that would cause an issue unless, Starfelt can play right back. I'm not so sure. We want to see that. We want to see him clearing up at centre half. The teams are on the park. Celtic are doing the huddle. They've just applauded, giving a guard of honour to Hearts as they brought on the championship trophy to show to their few thousand fans who are at Tynecastle tonight, Tony. Give me a wee prediction for the score then, because there's going to be goals tonight, and I think there'll be goals at both ends.
I'm going to say 3-1. I kind of said 4-3 yesterday in a joking way on the pod, but I think I'll say 3-1 to the Lions, to the leather belts, of course, the Marjorie Poops.
I'm going to go 3-2. 3-2 to Celtic. And, let's go to the action just now. We'll be back at half-time, Tony Haggerty. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. This is the last day that you can win the Verve Platinum Disc, which will be given away tomorrow. I will be announcing who the winner is. Get involved at half-time and full-time, and hopefully we're talking about a Celtic victory. Thank you all for getting involved in a Celtic state of mind.